Okay, so we are going to do a very short review lesson today. This is page 35. Please make sure that you have out some type of writing implement and maybe a highlighter. What we're looking at today is a reminder of how to add and subtract positive and negative numbers. I'm sorry, nope, how to add and subtract decimals, because tomorrow we are going to be adding, subtracting positive and negative decimals. So in order to do it here, we need to make sure that we can do it when it's just positives. Okay, so a little refresher course. The big thing to remember is that the key is lining up the decimals. If the decimal points are lined up, you are going to make sure that the ones are added to the ones, the tens are added to the tens, the hundreds to the hundreds, and that the decimal place values are also lined up accordingly. So my recommendation, and this should be done for you in the book already, is to draw your decimal points first. Okay, we're going to stack them. So I call this the stack method when you're adding or subtracting and you write one on top of the other. We're going to take 62 and 97 hundredths and we're going to add 4 and, you read the decimal point as an and, 534 thousandths. So to the left of my decimal point in my first number, I have 62. I leave no empty place values, no spaces. Okay. To the right of my decimal point, I have that 97. So 62 and 97 hundredths. I'm going to add this number here. To the left of my decimal point, I only have 4. So again, it goes right next to the decimal point. You don't want to put it over here because then that would be 40, right? 4 ones, not 4 tens. So right next to the decimal point, I had 4. And then to the right of the decimal point, I'm going to write 5, 3, 4. Notice how each time I tried to line up the numbers right underneath the place value on top of it. What you might see here, my voice is gone. What you might see here is that this looks a little like crooked or lopsided. When your addition problem or your subtraction problem is unbalanced, we call it unbalanced because we've got numbers that are just kind of like floating off to the side. We can use a placeholder 0, or what I like to call a ghost 0 because it's not really there. Okay. What we see here is that in this first value, there is nothing in the hundredths place value. There's nothing here. Well, what number represents nothing? 0. So you could write 0. I like to draw them kind of like this, like, oh, it's not really there, but it's fine. Just draw 0. If you wanted to do one here as well, you could. Just anywhere where there's a gap, you can always fill in a 0. But that just tells us now that we are adding 0 to 4 to still keep it 4. 7 plus 3 is 10. Remember to regroup. So I'm going to put the 1 on top and the 0 on the bottom. That's the 10. Moving on, 9 plus 1 is 10, plus an extra 5 is 15. I still do have to regroup here. Just because it's on the other side of the place value does not mean that I'm going to squeeze two numbers into just one place value. Okay? Think of each one of these as a place value. There's the thousandths, there's the hundredths, there's the tenths. So I can't have 15 tenths, right? I can only have 10 tenths. And that actually really turns it into 1. So it does carry over. 9 plus 1 is 10. I have 15 tenths. That's going to become 1 whole. Carry the 1, drop the 5. Bring that decimal point down into your answer. In fact, we probably should have done that first. Notice that the decimal points are fully lined up all the way through your answer. Okay, making sure place values are the same. Next, I have my ones place value. I have 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 4 is 7. So I'm going to write it right next to it. Being careful to line them up. And then 6, if I wanted to put that ghost 0 there, I could, but you can just see it 6 plus nothing. So 6. 67 and 504. The last place value is the thousandths. So 67 and 504 thousandths. Go ahead and try to see if you can set up this one here. Just do the setup. Okay, what you should have found is that the first step is lining up those decimal points. In fact, I'm even going to go so far as to line up the decimal point in my answer as well. So all of these keep us in line. Okay, in that first number, I have 20 off to the left. So 2 and a 0, making sure it's lined up right with that place or right with that decimal point. Don't leave any spaces. And then on the right of that decimal point, I have 4, and 8. So 20 and 48 hundredths. I'm going to be subtracting, I didn't do that the first time, 8 and 9 tenths. I got 8 on the left of my decimal point. Notice again, I'm putting it right next to the decimal point. That is what you line everything up with. And on the right side, 9. Didn't leave any spaces. I lined it up right below my first number here. Okay. Again, if I move my mouse, you might see that we don't look super lined up. Okay. We kind of are doing like a little triangular, unbalanced form here. Specifically, I'm noticing that I don't have a value under this. So I'm going to throw in a placeholder 0 or a ghost 0. Subtracting now. 8 minus 0 is 8. No harm there. You always start from the top. So top, subtract that bottom number. That's what you're taking away. If I only have 4, I cannot take 9 away. There's not 9 fingers here for me to steal from, right? So in that case, then I need to regroup and borrow 10s or 1s over from my other larger place values. You can hop across the decimal point to regroup, okay? What you cannot do is jump more than one place value. So this place value here, this 4, can only borrow from its immediate neighbor. That's 0. 0's got nothing to give, okay? Closed shop. So I do have to move over to the 2. But when I regroup this, 2 is going to become 1. You always go 1 less. This 2 only will give to its neighbor. Its neighbor is that 0. So 2 becomes 1, 0 becomes 10. Okay, that didn't help me over here yet. I still can't take 9 away from 4. But now that my neighbor's home over here, I can borrow from the 10. 10 becomes 9. You might also notice that 20 just became 19. That's another little cheat that you can do. But I'm borrowing from the 10, so 10 becomes 9. And I'm giving to my neighbor, 4 becomes 14. Now, 14 minus 9, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. It's a difference of 5. So over here, there's my 5. Decimal point already in place. 9 minus 8, easy, 1. And then remember, this is no longer 2. This is 1. 1 minus nothing, 1. So 20 and 48 hundredths minus 8 and 9 tenths is 11 and 58 hundredths. Okay, so remember, adding, you can carry over. Subtracting, you're looking at regrouping if needed. Okay. What is important to remember when adding and subtracting decimals? The answer is written for you already. It's lining up those decimal points. Okay, got to remember to line up the decimal points so that the place values are aligned. Place values aligned. You don't want to add 1 to 10 and say it's 20, right? It's 11. So keep those place values aligned. And then when our 0 placeholder is needed, if you look back at our examples, you'll see whenever there was anything unbalanced. So to balance the numbers, or the other way to think of it is just filling in the gaps. Oop, that is not an F. Filling in gaps. Okay. What you're going to do today, try the practice problems down here, line up the decimal points, and then add and subtract like normal. Okay. You can check your answers on the Go formative that is linked to our must do, may do list. So it's the exact same questions. You don't have to like do more problems. Just put in your answers and check if they're right or wrong. When you get them all right, you can move on to either the extra credit assignment, which is just like some more thought-provoking decimal questions. Pretty easy still, no positives and negatives, just straight decimals. You can also do iReady. If you don't have it done, it is due Friday, which is tomorrow. You can do missing assignments. And the last one is the may-do list. So on Google Classroom. So if you have finished everything and you have nothing else to do or better yourself with, you can go to the may-do list and work on that instead. I will be back tomorrow. Please be good for this sub for the rest of the day. Music is fine now that you're done with the Ed puzzle. And please be good. I'll see you guys tomorrow.